live. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I can say this for sure. It's 12:01 out here in the east and 9 a.m. out on the Pacific West Coast. Welcome to Remarkable Results Radio and the Town Hall Academy. It's Carm Capriata with a very esteemed panel. We'll bring them on in a minute. We're working hard each and every week. We're in week 79 of the Town Hall Academy, bringing fresh and innovative discussion and ideas to inspire individuals and grow great companies. And this is a summit for the forever student. You like that, guys? Thank you so much to Jasper Engines and Transmissions, performance and reliability. Now that's what Jasper's remanufactured diesel engines provide mile after mile. Jasper's running complete engines are dynamometer tested with horsepower and torque ratings recorded. There's a nationwide warranty program included too. Talk about dependable service. Thank you, Jasper, for supporting the Town Hall Academy, and keep your fleets happy. Buy a Jasper diesel remanufactured engine. On here, welcome to my esteemed panel, Keith Williamson, owner of Williamson's Repair and Tire in Bondurant, Iowa. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Carm, how are you?
Great. I met Keith for the first time. He was, wow, a panel at Vision. It's episode 309. We recorded that thing, a Vision panel called Shop of the Future. It was great to have you on that panel and great to meet you then.
It was great to be there.
And we also did an episode together on a Town Hall Academy called Recorded Service Calls. That was excellent too. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Appreciate all your support. John Long, partner in Schertz Auto Service in Schertz, Texas. Hey, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, man. John was in a great. If I talk about it's really got a lot of listens and views. Comebacks, episode 62 of the Town Hall Academy. That was an excellent podcast. And Keith Katz, owner of Quality Service Center in York, PA. Keith.
Good morning. How are you all doing?
Great, Keith. By the way, thank you so much to Keith Katz. He was an early adopter and supporter of the Remarkable Results Radio podcast, episode 61. Today, episode 350 went out. That was in November 2015, Keith. Thank you for taking a shot and getting on with us and telling your story.
2015. Wow, I didn't think it was that long ago.
November, yeah, episode 61. Oh, so I'm happy that we got to you and brought you in here for this great topic. What drives your parts buying decisions, guys? I really want you to chime in because so many of you have the same talking points ready. But let's start with you, John Long. Quality of parts. It seems to be, in any survey I see, right up there.
It has to be number one. I mean, you can't get a good quality part. Your reputation is going to precede you. It all goes back to that previous podcast that I did with you, the comebacks. I mean, you're going to have comebacks if you don't put on good quality parts. It's got to be number one. That's the number one thing for us is good quality parts.
We did talk about that. I think that was the number one reason for comebacks, wasn't it? Make sure you're putting on a quality part. Yeah. Same with you, Keith Williamson?
Yes, I totally agree. We use nothing but the best, OE quality or better, and I don't like to skimp on anything because it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah, I find that so interesting. You guys say this often when I do interviews, OE quality parts. So who makes that decision, that determination? Do you take the manufacturer's word for it? Or when you open that up, it's that, like kind quality? I mean, where do you determine OE?
Well, a lot of their stuff is coming from OE. I mean, I use AC Delco, Motorcraft, Mopar for the big three. And so we're buying a lot of just OE parts, from the get-go.
Okay, so even though Motorcraft or AC Delco may repackage for example, a Gates belts, you're still very confident in that brand's decision on the parts they put in their box.
Yep, I am.
Quality, Keith Katz.
Well, like everyone else has already said, no one likes to do the job twice, especially if you're pulling out a dashboard or ripping half the car apart to do it. So quality has to be number one. And when you talk about OE parts, sure, sometimes we even have OE parts that fail, but you have to think through the whole process of what you're doing and whether you're going to want to get that part, let's say from the manufacturer, or whether you can take an OE aftermarket type part. You know, something that you can easily get to. Sure, you can maybe get that OE aftermarket part and feel confident in it versus, you know, having to go to the manufacturer all the time.
Guys, what happens when the part fails and you're faced with an issue? Could be a labor claim, an unhappy customer come back, obviously. What do you do in that supplier relationship over that situation?
Well, for us, I'll start out. Obviously, our in-house warranty, we'll cover it. No questions asked. If it's a failed part, it's a failed part. We'll take care of it, parts and labor. That's why it's so important to have a good relationship with, whether it's your local parts house or whatever. You need to have that good relationship so that they will back you up on the labor also. And there's even been times when, you know, a part, maybe it failed at 28 months. You know, as a shop owner, are you going to sit there and say, well, 4 months past warranty, sorry? Or if you have a good relationship with a parts vendor, you can go to them and say, look, can you help me out here? And if you go back to your customer and say, hey, I got your part warranted, but we couldn't get the labor warranted, you know, they're happy. So it's very important to have a good relationship.
What do you tell John Long, the supplier, that you've seen a few of these in a row fail?
Well, you just have to see why they're failing. You have to work with the supplier on that. You have to work with your techs. You know, ask them, why is this thing failing? Why is this part failing? You know, what's wrong with it? You have to ask your supplier, are you seeing a bad batch of them? So I think it's just a constant communication back and forth between everybody regarding that to try and get to the root cause of why is that specific part failing, you know, over and over again. Maybe it's not the part, maybe it's something else, who knows?
I guess, guys, I'm digging into the word relationship here.
Yes, you have to have a great relationship with your vendors. Just like Kat said, you don't have that relationship, you can't go back to them for, you know, that part that's just out of warranty and see if they'll help you out. You know, because if you don't have a good relationship, that they're probably not going to help you out. But if you do have a great relationship, they're going to work with you. They're going to help you out on those parts. That way you can make your customer happy. Do whatever you can for them.
And I think another thing to be said in that same sentence is, if you're the shop that's beating up the part store for price, you're not going to have that relationship, right? So, you know, that's why I think on all of ours, price was the last thing on the list.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, a lot of my background comes from the distribution side, everyone. And I'm feeling some empathy here in all the things that you're saying. And Keith Williamson, you just opened, you know, you just said a mouthful. You keep beating up your supplier on price. I can't wait to have a supplier panel, and I'm planning one here in the next month and a half. And I want to ask them, so how it is that you deal with, what's your relationship like with a service professional that asks for price. Here's the phone, it's Bob, you know, or here's that e-commerce thing. Don't send it unless you can shave off $10 because everyone else has it for less. Have you ever sat down and had a quality conversation with your district manager, store owner, salesperson about this?
Yes, actually I have. My salesperson is in here on a weekly basis, and I've told him, look, I'm not looking for the cheapest. Get me in the ballpark and I'm happy. I want quality service. I want the part delivered when I need it, and I want a quality part, and I want to be able to order it online. I don't want to have to talk to anybody.
Let's. You also said service. obviously we want to talk about that, but let's continue to dig into relationships a bit. How often do you see your salespeople or your sales rep, your salesperson?
I think it all just depends on the vendor. Sometimes I see them on a weekly basis. Sometimes it's once a month. And sometimes I tell them, hey, you don't need to come by. I'm happy. I'm good.
Because they may be third or fourth call and, he could keep coming on. But do you want to see your first call supplier rep weekly?
I don't have to. If I'm happy, they're happy. I don't need them to come in and pat me on the back or bring us donuts, all that. That's, and I tell them that. I said, we don't need that stuff. Just give us great service, good quality parts, and I'm happy. You're not going to hear from me. If you want to stop by, you're happy to. But you don't need to bring me anything. Your service is what I want.
Interesting. Keith Katz, what do you want your sales rep to bring you when he shows or she shows?
Shrimp and lobster tail. I mean, it's not
Yes.
asking too much.
Yes.
It's kind of funny because I used to have a salesman for my local parts house that every now and then he'd show up, and one time he did bring shrimp, and I was like, whoa, man, that's great. But I guess I'm a little bit different than John, and that's fine. I like to see the first call people on a weekly basis. I like it when they come and touch base with me, and I think that's where I build a relationship, because it's not always just talking about parts and pricing and what they have, but that's hey, you said you went on vacation last week. How'd it go? Did you have a fun time? How's your kids doing? We start talking back and forth, and so he asked me about my grandkids and things like that. So I feel I enjoy that myself, and so that's a different part of me.
Well, okay, Keith wants a personal relationship, but can I ask a little deeper, Keith Katz? What is it that you, besides the relationship, besides what's going on with family, what else from a business side would you like from your sales rep?
It's funny you should ask that, because I constantly am talking to the owner of the local store, and I had a salesman that came around. Every time he'd come around, he'd carry a bag, kind of like the tool guys do when they come in. And he'd come in with a little bag, and he'd say, hey, let me show what we've done with these brakes, or let me show you what we've done with this part, or whatever. And he'd also bring in, hey, did you know that we also sell this? And there were things that they would bring in, and I'd be like, wow, I didn't know you guys had that available. That's really cool. Or give a real prime example. He came in one time with this really nice flaring tool for brake lines, and he said, let me show you how this works. It's so easy. Even a dumb salesman like me can do it. And he showed me how it worked. I'm like, I like that. I'll take one of those. And he sold a lot of them because he came around and showed. So that's the kind of things I like to see.
Those are the classic horse and pony shows. I love them. Mm-hmm. Yep. Business ideas, Keith Williamson, any value coming from your salesperson on sharing ideas?
I like to see them give us training. I mean, AC Delco's big on training, and it's great training. It's not just your local buy our parts. It's the same thing that the dealers are getting for training.
Suppliers cannot do buy my parts, pizza and parts seminars anymore. I think I would have to think that it's a long gone bygone era. I would say I haven't heard much about that anymore. I think the stigma is out there from when they used to do that. But John Long, regarding ideas, I do have many in distribution that listen to the podcast, and every once in a while I get an email or something in Facebook that says, hey, there was a great idea that I heard last week on this show. I've shared it with all of my accounts this week. Does anybody ever come in and bring you a business idea?
Not that I can recall off the top of my head. No, I do take that back. I did have one of my local reps come in not too long ago and mentioned something to me. I'm not sure if it's something I probably should say over the podcast here, but really, I don't get a whole lot of ideas from them as far as, I guess, business goes that way. maybe if anything, it's saying, hey, I have a promotion on these. We can, do this with that. Is that what you're kind of referring to?
Yeah, I guess I am, and I think
Okay.
you'd answer that the best you could. But and
Yeah.
back to relationships. Anyone here ever have lunch, sit down with the owner of the store? And again, I don't know if you're buying from big corporate America, district manager level.
Yeah, I usually probably once a month I have lunch with one of my reps.
Okay.
Whether we'll go out somewhere or actually they come into the shop during when we have our Friday lunches.
But John, you say a rep. I really am looking for the next level, a kind of a decision maker at at a higher level.
Well, she's kind of a rep and she's the owner, so she's her own rep. But she is one of the. She is a owner with her husband of 3 stores, parts stores. So her and I have a great relationship. And we do go out quite often and talk.
And is that where you have a chance, John, to really explain? I mean, is she asking for, if you will, the litmus test on how their company is performing for you?
Oh yeah, always. And she'll know if there's an issue. I'll usually mention it, but I rarely have an issue with this company. And that's why I buy from them.
Good for you.
They're great. They service us and they take care of us.
Thrilled to hear that. How about the 2 Keiths? Can you describe those kind of relationships for me?
I've actually been on a cruise with the owner of my number 1 call, and sit down and had dinner with them, and the guy's just like you or I. I mean, just a normal everyday person, and he wants to know how his business is doing. How are we treating our customers? Do you guys feel like the customer service is good enough? And in that, the feedback from me to him, they've taken some things and I've seen improvements. So the ideas that I've given, maybe they've used.
I was kind of driving to that. If you've ever seen them implement any of the thoughts or ideas that you had.
Yep, for sure.
Keith, how about you? I mean, I think you're buying from an independent Napa, right?
It's possible. Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to think, have we ever had dinner together or lunch but he does come by. He'll send an email, say, hey, when's a good time to sit down and just talk? And he'll come out to the shop and we'll go sit back in the lunchroom and, talk for an hour or so. How are things, what can we do to improve? Just to get some feedback. So, we get together on a regular basis, and that is the owner himself.
Glad to hear that. I mean, you want that relationship. You need that relationship. And if they are a strong business partner and they really help in what, your whole mission and vision is for your customer and your team, supplier relationships is hugely important. Thank you for that. Hey, as the average age of vehicles keeps rising, your customer's old engine or transmission is going to wear out. And when that day comes, Jasper will be the name to remember. Jasper's remanufactured products cost considerably less than a new vehicle, so it just makes sense to choose Jasper for your customers' drivetrain solutions. Hey, thanks, Jasper, for bringing the Town Hall Academy to the automotive aftermarket. Let's talk about service. Wow, and one of you guys brought that up. And I guess we can always say service is important. You could say it all at the same time. Yes, Carm, service is important.
Yes.
Okay. And it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the list. It's critical because you're really working on heavy, important workflows and depend on how you pay your guys. So here's the big question. What is timely, good service?
Having the part there when you need it.
Okay, it's there. It's you can see through e-commerce that it's there, Keith. How soon do you need it? I mean, do you give these people an hour? Do you give them 15 minutes? What's your expectation?
Ours are typically, they ship from Des Moines, which is the next city over from us. It's probably 20 minutes away, and they'll have a part there literally in 18 to 20 minutes.
18 to 20 minutes, next town over. Okay.
Yep.
And that satisfies you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't need them that quick. We do the inspection process and all of that. So we're not we're not needing a rush delivery every time. And we tell them that. If we need it rush, we'll tell them that.
Ah, thank you for breaking that code. I mean, that is so important. Sometimes the old wolf cries rush, and you really put your supplier through a bunch of hurdles, don't you?
Correct.
Maybe not knowing. And okay, good. Thank you for that. Keith Katz, time. What's a good time?
2 minutes or less. No. We're in a very fortunate position where we're located to our closest store. It's about 5 or 6 blocks away. So we get very good service. Now, the one thing that they'll do is when we order a part, and we do most of it online. I mean, it's very rare that we pick up a phone and order a part anymore. But if for some reason we forget to put on there how soon we need it, you know, like if we're pulling apart a job and I don't need it for an hour, we'll put on there need within the hour. If it's a rush job, ASAP, customer waiting. But if we forget to put that on that particular order, they'll actually pick up the phone and call us. How soon do you need this?
Perfect.
So I feel like it's very good service as quickly as they can get it to us. Yeah.
So service times isn't something you talk to the store manager a lot about. It's they have just learned your need, your methodology. You've worked it out together. At the end of a week, you're happy with the timeline on average?
There's times that they could do better. Yes. Depending on where the part's at, sometimes the local store doesn't have it, so they have to grab it from another store, and then it can be a 90-minute wait. But again, I think like a lot of other people do is if we have a brake job, pads, rotors, calipers, let's just say, and they don't have them in stock at their local store, we may go ahead and order the parts even though we haven't sold the job yet to get them rolling, so that by the time the job's sold, the parts are arriving within a timely manner. And, and if we don't sell the job, then we just turn them back.
Okay. You just made me think about returns. John, how about you? We'll cover that. John Long, talk to me about your service intervals, expectations.
I would say usually within a half hour, I can get mostly anything from any of my vendors. There's some vendors that I do have certain times of the day that they have certain deliveries to us, and we manage that and we expect that. So I think it's just knowing up front that I'm going to get parts at this time, and as long as they meet that, then we're okay. We can plan around that. It's when they don't meet those times, and that's where we have issues.
It crunches your workflow during the day, and any counterman, delivery person, dispatcher ever come and spend a few hours with you to see how crazy and hectic it could be inside your place?
I think not specifically for that reason, but there's been times where they've come in, on some of their visits, and they've been there 30 to 45 minutes, and they're like, wow, you guys have a lot going on. Now I see why you need your deliveries when you need them, and on time, just because one little hiccup can throw a lot out of whack.
So digital vehicle inspections and paperless and being able to communicate with our customers digitally, anticipation of the order, Keith Katz, as you said, is that putting more pressure on our supplier as the customer, an hour later finally texts you back and, they need the car in a couple of hours? Does your supplier realize that the new technology may put more pressure on the system?
I think it could. I don't know that I see that. And again, I think it's more us being proactive than reactive. I'm not sure that I see that in our situation anyway. Maybe one of the other guys sees it differently.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Keith. I really don't see that issue either. I think we just kind of manage everything.
All right.
That's how you manage it all.
Thank you, John. Keith Williamson, availability. Everybody wants to, when you always want the part to be there.
Exactly.
And when it's not, you scratch your head and you say, why? Why isn't it there? Am I right, guys?
Yeah, you do. You need the part in stock. I mean, we can't wait 2 days for a part that we need for a 2-hour job. Just can't happen.
What's the challenge for your supplier? What do you know about your supplier and the depth of, or the breadth of coverage that he has on his shelves? What did they tell you?
Well, they tell us how many dollars they have stocked there, for sure. I'm sure we've all heard that.
Yeah.
And, $2.5 million in a parts store is nothing anymore. So I just can't imagine having that kind of overhead. But,
yeah, $2.5 million would be a nice small warehouse inventory. I think the local store may have 750, and years ago it used to be 250, then 500 and 750. And that investment all comes from the profits of the organization. It's the only way it gets on the shelf. So you may scratch your head all the time, but are there any specific product categories, guys, that you're surprised the coverage isn't as wide as it should be? Maybe emission parts, ignition parts, anything that you noticed?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I mean,
Not anymore.
calipers, brakes, rotors are the minimum 2-year-old models on the shelf products.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I really haven't run into any issue for, I guess, a high moving part like that just all of a sudden hasn't been there. It just, I guess, like Keith Williamson was saying, they all have a lot bigger inventories nowadays. So they're carrying a lot more parts to service us.
I know our local store that we deal with actually has 8 different locations across Pennsylvania. And it's just kind of funny because there's always this ongoing joke, if the West York store doesn't have it, the East York store does. And us in West York say, well, everything's over in East York, and East York says everything's in West York. And it just seems to be like, no matter what you try to find, but, the thing that frustrates me a little bit sometimes, if I can say this, is, you take something common like, let's just say Dodge Caravans, there's a million of them out on the road, and they all have brakes and they all have rotors. And, you go and call the store and they're like, oh, we don't have those in stock. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, it's a Dodge Caravan. Everybody has one of those. But then you look at their other stores and they got like 3 or 4 sets over there, but our store has none. It just doesn't make sense. But it happens. But
showing my level of experience here, a store that may have 4 or 5 of an item on the shelf that could be inventory bloat, and that comes from people ordering the product, returning it 2 days later because they didn't get the job. Now it goes back into the inventory, and you say, "Why has this store got so many?" Well, it's part of how we're all trying to do business today, and that bloat really inflates inventory. And if it doesn't get sold off in plenty of time, so that they could use that a portion of the profits to grow inventory again, we're all in this incredibly terrible, vicious cycle. Hey guys, thank you for your honesty and where this thing is going so far. I appreciate it. We brought up warranty and labor a little while ago, and when you guys do labor claims, are you happy with the process that your supplier brings to you in getting a claim in the system and then ultimately being paid?
I am. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm really happy with my supplier. They take care of us, and we've never had one go over 30 days. So
wow,
that's really good.
That's good. Keith Katz?
I'm right now we're doing really well. We've had some salespeople in the past that they would take longer than the 30 days, and that gets a little frustrating. But the guy that we currently have, he's on top of it, and he comes in every week, and we can give him one this week, and next week when he comes in, it's like, oh, here's your labor claim, da 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 da. So it's nice when it's handled that quickly.
So it's the salesperson who's actually handling it for you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's who handles it for us. We deal, and that's another reason why it's good to see him on a weekly basis, because he'll ask, do you have any labor claims that need to go in? And so we can deal with those right then.
Are you guys happy with the warranty that comes with parts, the length of time?
I
think,
am. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, overall I am. I mean, obviously I'd like it to be a little bit longer. We have our minimum warranty is 3 year 36. Most parts don't go to that. So I'd like it to be longer, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. And if you have a good relationship, most of your vendors are going to take care of you anyway. I think that's just what it boils down to for us. So we don't really have too many issues with that. Just like I said, they're going to take care of you. If you treat them nice, they're going to treat you the same way.
All right. Have any of you been tempted to buy from a non-traditional e-commerce type supplier?
Never once been tempted at all. I don't want to go down that road.
I will be honest and say I've been tempted, but I've never done it. I mean, sometimes you look at the pricing and it's like, wow, that's really a good price. But, it's the whole thing of if something goes wrong, who are you going to call? I mean, seriously, who are you going to call?
Not only that, but 3 days waiting time to get the parts there. 2 days minimum, at least in my area. That's not going to work either, right?
Wow. Talk about, so you do a lot of business with your suppliers. You get cash discounts for paying on time, volume rebates. I don't want you to discuss any personal in detail thing, but from a supplier, is a prompt pay, which I hear is going away, and or are volume rebates important to you?
I wouldn't say they're important. I'd say they're kind of part of the big picture. There are a couple of vendors we do have prompt pay discounts. There are a vendor that we do have a quarterly rebate check. There's some other vendors that have online rebates as well. I think you kind of take that and put it all into the big picture on it. It's not one that says, oh, they have a quarterly rebate, we have to buy from them. I think you just kind of add it in and with everything else.
It's the package.
Yes, it's the package.
And it would be lower on the list than quality part, excellent service times, availability, relationship training. It's a little lower on the list.
Oh, yes, definitely. For us, it is. For me, yeah.
Same with Keith and Keith?
Yeah, I think it's lower. I mean, I would rather see, definitely rather see that, I guess, the discounts taken afterwards. I was just looking at Kathleen on the chat here, made a mention of that, and I agree with that. I'd rather see the rebate taken off after. If we're going to get a 2% cash back on a card, that's going to take my family on vacation, and I can use.
Yeah, we covered that last week on our the financial fruit. One of the guys talked about using his credit card for paying his parts bill, and he's actually used the miles he's gotten on the card to send his people to training and into conferences. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, those are great ideas. We see a lot. Gary Keys out in Florida. Gary, thanks for being with us in here on the Zoom channel. Wants to talk about the premium and the second lines. Are you happy with the mix between premium and second lines? Are you happy with the second line quality? Tell me what your opinion is of, the brand rotor versus the second line rotor.
I think it just goes back to, is that second line part a good part? Have we used it before? Have we seen comebacks from it? Have we seen issues? If the answer is no, then I'd say we're happy with that part. There are some lines, second line parts, that I won't use because we have seen issues with, and we go with the premium line. So I think you have to take it a case by case basis. You just can't lump it all second line parts into one category.
Okay. Keith Williamson, if you're happy with the second line, would you then offer the customer, if necessary, an option on their quote based on those two different choices?
Yeah, I would, but I would have a different warranty on both. I mean, the second line is not going to have my standard 440 warranty like the first line is.
Wow, you're at 440?
Yes.
Interesting. We'll actually do a show about that someday, Keith. It's like 224, 336, though we're at 440. It's amazing where the warranties are going. It's just amazing. We really should do a show on that.
And I'm not even the best in town now. So,
Earlier I said we were 336, but that's on most of our repairs. A lot of our repairs are actually a lifetime warranty is what we put on them. You get a starter from me, I'm going to put a lifetime warranty on it. So that's where good quality parts have to come into line, so we can offer those.
Amazing. Good stuff. Keith Katz, does your supplier have a lot of second lines?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think every supplier has 2 lines, and a lot of times we prefer to sell the top quality. We don't want comebacks, we don't want issues, and we explain it to the customer. Now, there are times when we will say, hey, to put these ball joints on your car, you're looking at $300, or I can save you $40 by using a, second quality part or something, something along that line. And 99% of the time, the people are like, oh, no, I want the better stuff. The savings that you get sometimes on the second line parts isn't, it's not that great of a savings to me, in my opinion. So we just tend to stick with the premium. And I think, like John said, there are some times when customers come in and that they're tight on money, or their bill is going to be $1,600, and they're like, can you save me $100 anywhere? And we'll work with them. But typically, we go for the number 1 line.
Thank you for that, guys. Great insights. Thank you. Let's talk about credit assurance or returns. When you have new parts, Keith, I think you were telling me, well, let's anticipate this brake job, and 8 out of 10 we sell and they stick. But those other 2 out of 10, there's the rotors and the pads and the calipers sitting in a bin or a box on a customer return shelf. How happy are you that credit gets back in time and on your account right away?
They're on top of that. I have a girl that works, a young lady that works in the office that handles all of our returns for parts. And if there's a part on our return part shelf that needs to go back, and the vendor comes in, she's on top of it. We have a paper trail, the whole thing where, well, you never returned that part. Well, we have them sign a paper so that if they say that, we're like, no, Joe Schmo here, he took the part back. But usually within a day, if we send something back today, this is Friday, but if we send something back on a Monday, by Tuesday, we'll have the credit for it. So they stay on top of that real well for us. And they don't complain.
That's a great commitment, a 24-hour turnaround on a credit with a paper trail and maybe a number on that ticket. John, explain to me how it works for you.
I would, we're in the same boat. I've got someone in the front office that one of his responsibilities is to manage our returns, making sure, they get back to the vendor quickly, making sure all the paperwork's in line, and making sure we get our credit back quickly. For the most part, most of our vendors are really good. There's every now and then we might have one that we have to go back and say, hey, it's been a couple weeks on this. Why haven't we gotten credit? But for overall, if you've got a good relationship, they're going to take care of you real quick. And we try not to have returns. That's one thing that I'm a big stickler on is try not to have any returns, limit those, because the vendors don't like them. They're going to, if your return rate's pretty high, they're not going to like you too much, because they could have that overstock issue like you mentioned earlier. So we try to make sure we're getting the right parts the first time.
I love what he said. Did you hear what he said?
Right.
They're not going to like you anymore. and that almost goes to prove the value of this relationship. I mean, the supplier, works so hard to get your business, and yet, does he really realize how much you value his business? God, I don't want him not to like me anymore, because they really are part of my business. So credit assurance for you, Keith, and I also think of cores, is there still a lot of cores going on out there?
not as much as there
Yeah.
has been in the past, for
Yeah.
sure. But I'm like John. We've got a pretty seamless process, and I've never seen one take over a couple days to get processed. So.
Well, he just broke the code, everyone. It's about a process, and it doesn't matter. I mean, every part of the business has to have a process. And if you are failing to get the proper credit, it's partly your
Yeah.
fault that you have a very poor process, and to lay it out, to get a signature, to have someone follow up and follow through. Well, good, all great parts of driving your parts buying decisions and your relationship. Wow, this has been great, but we haven't talked about the lowest thing on your list. And for some people, it's the highest thing on their list, price. And it's interesting. And, you guys came on here, and I really didn't know where any of your hierarchy was going to land and where price was going to be. But now that, I hear about all that you had to say and what you put in front of price, I get why you have incredibly successful businesses. What's the story on why price isn't in the top three? Keith Williamson?
Well, I'm not going to be the cheapest to my customers because I provide a great service. I mean, I'm not just installing a part, I'm providing a service, and I want that from my parts supplier as well. I want them to take care of me. I want them to stock my inventory for oil filters and things like that. They do it based on what I tell them I want as numbers, but my salesman's in here weekly doing that. So, and they'll even put them on the shelves for you.
I love that. Guys, I really would love you to chime in on price, because I have a really big challenge for all of you at the end of. I got this great challenge on price. Keith, Katz?
Yeah, pricing, and I think it's like Keith Williams said. I'm not the cheapest guy in town. I understand that. I realize that. And I don't want my customers coming and, nitpicking, well, I can go down the street and get this for $2 less or $3 less. And, it's a matter of like we've said over and over and over again, it's a matter of the service and the relationship that we build. And I think when you deal with someone and you establish that relationship, if you have to go to them and say, hey, can we get a little bit better pricing on this one item? They're going to say, sure, we can do that for you. We can help you out. In fact, I had it happen to me this past year on some brakes that we were doing. And they were it wasn't even an argument. They're like, yeah, we can help you out.
But that doesn't happen every day for you in your relationship.
No, it doesn't. And I don't expect it to. Again, I'm looking for a good quality part. I'm looking for somebody that will be able to deliver the part and deliver it quickly, and that'll stand behind the part with not only a parts warranty but a labor warranty. And so, what does the price really matter?
Got it. So, Keith, another challenge to your thinking is you see the part is $90, and in e-commerce portals, you see someone else has it for 70, 78. Let's pick a number, 78. Do you pick up the phone and say, you can send it to me if you can do it for 78?
Never done that. Plus, the other thing is, are we comparing apples to apples, or, is it the same part, or is it slightly different part? And you know what? We have other vendors that we deal with from time to time, and there are some times that they are cheaper. But again, I always go back to, well, if I buy it from this guy, I have a relationship with him. He's going to give me a labor warranty on top of it. So for the extra $20, I'll spend the extra $20 and know that I'll be taken care of.
John Long?
Yeah, exactly. Long ago, I used to do that. Call up and say, hey, this guy has it for $10 cheaper. Can you send it to me? But the way our process is nowadays, we don't have time for that. You don't have time to spend on the phone beating those guys up. It's going to cost you time. They're going to get upset with you if you keep calling them on that. So best thing to do like the Keith said, build those relationships over time and say, hey, ask them, hey, there's this line that can we work it out and get a little bit cheaper on? And most of the times they'll work with you. I had one 2 weeks ago. We had the same issue. I went to my vendor and said, hey, this line, I'd love to buy this line from you, but you're a little too high. Can we get a little bit lower? And I'll be more than happy to get your business. You don't have to beat the other price, but just kind of get in the ballpark a little bit. And I'll be more than happy to give you that business because I like the service that you guys give us.
And Carm, on top of that, we have had instances where I can't even think of the part, but the local store didn't have it in stock for whatever reason. And we ended up getting it from the manufacturer. And then we were like, wait a second, I can buy this part from the manufacturer for $70 and this aftermarket parts house wanted $170 for the part. Why is there such a big gap? I mean, and it has happened that there's been huge gaps. And then we'll just go to the store and say, you may want to check the pricing on this because from what we're seeing, you're way out of line.
Yeah.
And we just do that just to kind of fill them in, but it's not to beat them up.
I got it. Good stuff. Thank you. Why purchase a Jasper quality remanufactured product? Well, it's their people. A Jasper associate is dedicated to high quality customer service, committed to excellence, professional, and has pride of ownership as part of a 100% associate-owned company. Thanks again, Jasper, for the Town Hall Academy. Don't forget, elective credit for AMI. There are certain Town Hall Academy episodes. Go to the website on the Academy page and find out which episode you can listen to get AMI credit. Guys, this has been great. I just want to put one really big challenge out at you all. And maybe you all may have the same answer. I don't know. But so here it is. I am quoting a job. I find out that I can buy the part for $90. I've already got the customer committed to it. And before I click, in fact, based on the $90, my gross profit matrix inside my SMS calculated this whole thing. The customer agreed to it. Now I have a chance to buy that part for $20 less somewhere and add $20 to my gross profit margin. How often do you guys do that?
Never. I don't think that's really a good ethics, in my opinion. Just stick with what you have. If you can get the part cheaper, then pass that savings on to the customer as well. To me, that's just good ethics.
Thank you. Keith?
I didn't answer to begin with because I'm not on the front counter. My advisors do that. They're the ones that are purchasing the parts. And
yeah, but you give them the power to do it.
Yeah, we do. But we don't do that either. I mean, I don't see them ever checking them. We pretty much buy from the same supplier all the time. So.
Okay. And that supplier has earned your loyalty.
They have, yes.
I mean, maybe that's the big code that the end result here is find a supplier that's willing to earn your loyalty in all those categories. No one's ever going to be perfect in every one of them, but the package, it's the whole package that matters, right, Keith?
Yep.
Someone said up in the Zoom chat, has Amazon been mentioned? And we actually did say the word e-commerce, although we didn't mention anyone by name. And this group here has not decided to support Amazon, although I'm sure you guys have checked them out and maybe have sat down in an amazement and figured, how could they be, doing what they're doing. But boy, I'll tell you, with the overhead today in running a business and what it takes for a distributor, a supplier to you to do business today, and Amazon's got it dialed into a single-digit cost of doing business. So it's so tough. I know it really is expensive to do business in our industry. Thank God for our suppliers. I guess that's all I have to say, right? Yeah. Hey, it was great to have you all. What drives your parts buying decisions? This really went to good places. Thank you for your transparency and honesty. Keith Williamson, owner of Williamson's Repair in Bondurant, Iowa. John Long from Schertz Auto Service in Schertz, Texas, and Keith Katz from Quality Service Center in York, PA. Hey, have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Carm.
Thank
Good
you,
job.
Carm.
Good
Have
job.
a great
Great
weekend,
job.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.